So, something feels off in America. What is going on? What is causing all of this? Well, why doesn't effort turn into stability anymore? Why is it that what we were told growing up doesn't really align with the reality that we're all living in? Because that was the deal, right? You do what you're told, you work your ass off. You're supposed to be able to get some breathing room. That's it, not luxury, just stability, just some breathing room. And sometimes we're working hard, sometimes harder than we used to, and we never get it. And we're always told that's just how life is, right? But it's broken and it's not a personal failure. And that's why we drop the me's if you feel this, because they make us think like it's our fault. Like if you're exhausted, if you can't make enough, that you messed up, right? But that doesn't line up with all of our realities. It's so crazy when we say this and we're like, yeah, we're working 40 hours a week, but still can't make ends meet. And somebody just goes, no. It's just like, well, yeah, that's literally what we've done. Because this is not a handful of people, right? This is hundreds of millions. It's 80% of Americans that don't have enough savings. People in different jobs, across different sectors, in different goddamn cities and states. We all feel that same pressure, right? We all feel the same like frustration. It feels like walking in mud, right? If life feels like walking in mud sometimes, drop a me in the chat because it really does. Because it's every month it resets, right? On the 30th, that reset button happens. Oh, I paid all my bills. I got to do it all over again. And we're all still one bad month from it falling apart. And that's what really doesn't make sense to me. Effort isn't the deciding factor, right? Effort isn't the number one reason you either fail or succeed. It's your zip code. That's what predicts more about your future than your work ethic. Who you are born to matters more than what you actually do. What? We're rewarding the wrong thing. We're not rewarding somebody's contribution. We're not rewarding how hard you worked and how much effort you put in. We don't even reward intelligence. We just reward where you start. That's it. It's like they tell people just work harder, which in our mind, it's like, well, if you work harder, you should get results, right? So now everybody feels this weird tension between how hard we're working and what we're getting for that work. And we don't feel like it adds up. But we can't quite name it, or else people call us lazy or bitter. And that's what's so crazy is we're just asking for enough to cover our cost of living. And obviously, that's just the bare minimum. But right now, the average cost of living is like about the same as the average salary. So it means people are stuck constantly because there's not enough. And it's not either side. It really isn't. No matter which side we point to, if we are pointing fingers at either side, we are playing into the hands of the billionaires. Both parties are two sides of the same coin. And let's add another layer to that, right? We're all working our asses off 40 hours a week. When are you supposed to step back and wonder what's going on? They don't give us any time to connect the dots, right? We're not stupid. Americans aren't dumb. They're just tired. We're exhausted. And when you're exhausted, you can't even see straight, let alone wondering, why doesn't the system work anymore? And that's why we just feel stressed about life. We all feel the same pressure, but we point to different reasons. We feel ashamed, right? It's this constant background question of what's going on. And then there's the generational layer, which makes it even messier because our parents did get to work hard and get ahead. Food, housing, and healthcare was not almost the same cost as their salary. So they see us struggling and they think that we're not working hard enough. David, so are the Democrats. You just got to look harder. Neither party works for you. They are good cop, bad cop. One tries to report, one tries to, they're both sides. Appreciated comments. Appreciated chat. And so now the previous generation is wondering, well, if you're not getting ahead, it's not that the system's broken. It's that you're not working hard because we worked hard and we got ahead and nobody gave us a notice saying the system changed. So as far as our mind is, the system stayed the same. What's up, Terry? So now it's not just you being confused. It's this social structure of it too. You're defending yourself against your own parents. You're defending yourself against your own family. And it's hard to articulate because the more you try to get to the root cause, the more you wonder, did I do something wrong? Every signal that we get from society and from people around us tells us that somehow it's us, right? But that doesn't make sense because we're the ones that do the hard work. We show up every day and make sure the place runs. We hold it all together. But somehow we're the ones who get no security. And it is so strange that we act like this is normal. It's so weird. It's just like, oh, this is the way life is. It's like, I'm pretty sure you're supposed to be able to afford the things that you need in life. Like if you need housing and healthcare, it shouldn't be super stressful to get those things all the time. That's just not how it is. It's not the natural order. It didn't used to be like that with the previous generation, right? It's not how things are. Life doesn't have to be this way. So the question comes back to, if working hard does not lead to stability, what the heck changed, right? If busting your butt for 40 hours a week doesn't mean that you can pretty easily afford a house and the rest of the stuff you need to live, what changed? Everybody feels like everybody has this sense that something is wrong. But no one says the same thing. No one agrees on it. We all just kind of fight about it because we have this weird feeling of what is wrong. And that's where I think most of our country is in. That's why we're so anxious. That's why we're so tired. That's why we're so divided. Because we all go towards a different issue, and that seems like it's not by accident. But what it really comes down to is they keep us out of time. We don't have any time to think about how we're constantly drowning, right? We're too busy paying this month's bills. It feels like you're living in constant maintenance mode. Rent, mortgage, food, healthcare, gas, childcare, car payment. By the time you're done paying, the new month is there again. And you never quite get ahead. Every month, it's this constant churn, and that does shit to your mind. It keeps us all stressed. It keeps us all frustrated. Our focus is so narrow, and we're just focusing on our next need, right? I like to say it's like we're all treading water. That's better than the stuck in the mud analogy. It's like we're all treading water. Now, we've been told our whole lives, if you do these things, you'll be able to swim forward. Work hard, go to school, follow the rules. But nope, we're all just treading water. Every single one of us. And that's how you know it's a big problem. Because it's not just a few people. It's everyone. And we know we're treading water statistically because nobody has any money. Yeah, I mean, drowning, Greery, would be better. But treading water, one step away from drowning. We're not able to build anything when you're treading water. You don't move forward. You just hopefully don't go under. And what is the hardest part about it is that when your head is right here on the water, you have no perspective. You can't look around and see who's keeping you there. You don't see who else is in the water with you. You don't see who's filling the pool up so that the water is constantly rising. And you can't ask, why are some of those people over on dry ground? Why? Because you're just trying not to drown. Because if we have every single American treading water, well, you're not going to be thinking about why you're in that position. You're just going to be working your butt off to try to make your rent, to try to have enough food. If everyone is exhausted, you're easier to manage. We're easier to divide. That's where a lot of it comes from. We're all in fight or flight. Thank you, Tough. We're all in fight or flight. We all put our guard up at the moment. Something that is, we don't like comes to us. So that's why we're so divided. And the confusion really is what's frustrating. Because when we're adults, this is supposed to be the payoff, right? This is supposed to be the payoff. This is what we all work towards. You go to school, you bust your butt, and yet somehow you're still just treading water. So what do people do? Well, it's a rite of passage in America to make your own way. So the fact that we're not able to make our own way, we blame ourselves. We blame ourselves. Drop a me in the chat, y'all, because that's what they tell us to do. And we drop the me's in the chat because we all feel that. Didn't even mean to rhyme. It sucks, right? Everybody's exhausted, but we're convinced we're the only one. We internalize the failure. We think we missed a step. That's what all Americans are doing. We think we missed a step. And then we're ashamed. And because we're ashamed, we stay silent. Our silence is their power. Because the game is rigged, right? It's a rigged carnival game. It's just the rigged carnival game only stays in place because nobody calls out its rigged nature. Because this is what it is. If this many people are struggling, why does it feel like it's our fault? That should be the question. If 9 out of 10 people are taking a step and falling, why do we think it's just our fault? Well, I think a lot of us know, right? It's because we grew up watching our parents do it, our grandparents doing it. It's not that we're asleep. We don't have any options. We don't have any options. We'll get to that in a minute, though. But it feels like a personal failure isn't just because it's an expectation. America does not have many shared values. And one of our shared values is a rite of passage that I don't even think we talk about that much. But the rite of passage in America is to make your own way. What do people say? I left home at 18 and I was fine. It's to make your own way. And so when we don't make our own way, when we follow all the rules, when you work hard, you're supposed to earn stability. And that's across our culture. That's a cultural belief. It's almost sacred, right? And you see people, when you work hard, you're supposed to be able to get by, not get rich, but get by, be stable. And when you reach adulthood, you're supposed to do better. But people are afraid of talking about it because they feel like they're the only ones. We're ashamed at not achieving our rite of passage. But dang, if we look at Gen Z today, there is not much opportunity. It's so crazy. There's almost no opportunity. Yet, even though there's no opportunity for Gen Z, we tell them it's a personal failure, right? So that's why people don't talk about it. We all hide it. Everybody's feeling this in one sense. I thought I'd be doing better by now, right? There we go. Drop a me in the chat if you feel that way. I thought I'd be doing better by now. I think so many of us feel that way, and everybody feels that way, but has a different reason why. And then we already talked that our guard is up. So the moment somebody says something that we don't think is correct, we put our guard up or turn the other way, right? And it's crazy because millions of people are struggling, but emotionally it feels like us. It feels private. It feels embarrassing because everybody thinks that they're the only one, right? Everybody thinks that they're the only one. So the silence reinforces itself. Maybe that person figured something out I didn't. No, they just had a better starting point because they made the isolation a crucial part of it, because the isolation turns into personal guilt, right? The isolation turns into personal guilt. And that's what keeps us asking others, hey, did you make it through? Because if we talk to everybody and we talk to every single one, and 9 out of 10 people said, I did everything I could and I still slipped. At some point, doesn't it stop becoming the individual's fault and start becoming a systemic problem? At what point? When it's 8 out of 10 people that are not able to make it? When it's 9 out of 10 people that are not able to make it? At what point do we stop blaming the individual and start saying, well, something else is going on here? Maybe the roadmap that we were given is wrong. So that's where the silence reinforces itself, because when you are sitting there, just imagine treading water. When you are sitting there treading water, you can't really see what's going on. You have no perspective on the situation, and you don't realize that somebody set the whole thing up so that the water level is rising, so you have to go to work at 8 years old. You don't realize that the person standing on dry ground is controlling the rules so that every single person is exhausted and tired, and then they feel bad for it. And that's the only way that you would ever let an 8-year-old go to work. And the other reason, because nobody has time to think about it, right? If they kept every single parent working 50, 60 hours a week, they were working 7 days in some cases. Well, yeah, you're not going to think about how child labor is wrong, especially if you were told that, oh, kids are just little adults, right? And this is what we need to keep coming back to, because we would assume that, people don't have as much education as you or intelligence, or that people just don't care. But that's not the case. Rod and Savior, you are correct. It's that most people are just tired. We're just exhausted. And when you don't have the time to sit down and zoom out, you narrow in, especially if you're having trouble getting your food, getting your housing. You're not looking at, oh, what are these structural problems? You're like, how do I get my housing paid for next month? How do I make my rent? If food isn't secure, if housing isn't secure, if healthcare isn't secure, you don't sit around and think about why the system is screwing you over. You're thinking about your next bill. You're thinking about the next emergency that could go wrong that you don't have the money to pay for. That's why at the end of the week, we all sit on our asses and doom scroll, because we're so stressed. Because if your entire life, and that's the moment where the question starts to turn. The system makes us so tired that it protects itself because we're in survival mode. Being exhausted and not having stability sure feels like it's connected. If they keep us working, They keep us stuck. If they keep us stuck, they don't want us having stability. That's why having 3 months worth of savings in your bank account, 6 months worth of savings, they don't let anybody have it. Well, I appreciate that, silly mom. Not only that, we've got a place for you to go if you're feeling this and want to find a group of people. We are working together to fix it. We take it extra slow right here because we like to talk about the disease before we get to the cure. But here's what it is. Most people don't even realize the game is rigged, right? They think it might be rigged a little bit, just a tiny bit more for some people than others. But if you worked hard, you can overcome it. But because they're so tired, because you're so exhausted, if you were so tired every single day and somebody next to you was being mean to their dog or something, you might not have the energy if you're working 60 hours a week to go fight that battle too, right? So most of us see that the system is rigged for a lot of people, but we look sideways because we're still focused on what we're doing, right? We're still focused on what we're doing. And here's what it is. People compare, they judge, they assume the person just didn't try hard enough. They assume they made bad life choices. Isn't that funny? Somebody just made our point right in the comments. When really that's not the difference, right? The only difference is access to having extra time on your hands, access to information. Because if you're barely surviving and you see someone doing better than you, what do we all think? Maybe they did something I didn't. Maybe they figured something else I didn't. And if you're the one doing slightly better, you think, I earned this, right? That's why people come in here and point fingers at other people they know nothing about. Because they think that we're saying, you didn't earn this. No, that's not what we're saying. It's just that the system pats you on the back and reinforces the fact that you want to earn this, because then you think that you'll be better than somebody else, right? Oh, this is great. So then, dearly, what we should do is make our education completely equal for everybody, right? If somebody is born to the factory owner, then they would get the same education as somebody born to the factory employee. Oh, yeah, because if somebody's born to a factory owner, they'll live in a nicer house. If somebody's born to the factory employee, they probably won't be in nice of a zip code. Good thing our education system is based off of property taxes. So depending on the price of the house that you're born into, you'll either get a higher quality education or a lower quality education based on the price of the house you're born into. The child had nothing to do to decide that. But then that dearly just said it. Education is directly correlated to earning potential. So it's almost like those children that are born in a low income zip code then go to a school where they don't get a proper education. And because they didn't get a proper education, dearly said it, their earning potential is lowered. Well, that's directly related to the fact that our schools are funded by property taxes. So what people think, because if you're barely surviving, you think somebody did better than you. What people aren't actually looking at is, why are so many people working full time and still falling farther behind? Why does the current generation work more hours than people in the 1950s? Why isn't it that the harder you work, the better you do? Why isn't our effort connected with our outcome? Security is like barely scraping by. You're doing good nowadays, right? So the problem isn't that people aren't giving effort, because we know that effort is not connected to outcome. How many people would agree that in America, if you work hard, you get ahead? If you put in an effort, you will get a positive outcome. That's not true anymore. So let's take it a little bit farther. Maybe the system depends on us just being busy all the time, just being anxious enough all the time, just insecure enough that you never really see the pattern, right? Just not understanding, just thinking that all of this is accidental and part of it, right? And what we have to understand, y'all, the people that still have their head in the sand, they're never going to get it, right? Because if you were looking at the current situation now and are like, hey, this is the society I want, then we're not going to be moving forward in a direction that actually works, right? So why don't more people see this earlier? We all catch pieces of it, right? The message is all around us. It keeps telling us the same thing, and we've seen it a ton in the chat today. If you're falling behind, it's your work ethic. If you're struggling, you didn't try hard enough. They know nothing about your life, by the way, but this is what they always say. If you're stressed, you just need to do more. You need to work harder, right? We got people saying it in the chat right now. They don't know any of you personally, but what do they say? If you're falling behind, it's your work ethic. Even though we already talked about how work ethic doesn't lead to outcome, how many people actually believe that if you put your time in for the company and you show them that you're a good worker, that they will give you raise after raise and you'll live a life better than that of your parents? So even when something is wrong, we push it down because everybody's just trying to survive. And what's funny is we all need the same thing. We don't need different things. We all need food. We all need housing. We all need healthcare. But when you barely have those covered, all you do is listen to the people that are lying about the reason why, right? You don't have a second to take a breath. You don't have a second to feel better. It's always right back to the grind. And that's where you don't have to feel bad about the people that are pushing back against us, because nobody believes it until they feel it themselves, right? Isn't that the thing? And isn't that why right now, this moment in time in America, more people are waking up because the system is finally not working for them? And it was only when most people feel it a little bit, but they just don't believe it till themselves. So we're going to go a little bit slow at the cure here. Y'all are talking about the disease. The Discord is where we really lay it out. And if you want more information, you can visit our page. But what happened is that the system used to work for just enough of us that we didn't speak out, right? That nobody spoke out, or that only a small portion spoke out. Then a little bit more, the system stopped working and a few more people spoke out. And then the system stopped working for even more people, and then even more people spoke out. So then working 45 hours doesn't fix it anymore. You can't just work harder out of this. Doing everything right and budgeting better, that doesn't fix it either. Now, more and more people feel the same silent frustration. Why does it feel like the economy is working against us instead of for us? Why does it feel like life is walking in the mud or treading water? Customer support. It's just that so many people are divided on the disease. One of the same ways they keep us separated is by all of us thinking it's 1,000 different issues. So we're going through why it feels like 1,000 different issues. But I suggest go watch some of our videos Go look at some of our posts and come back. So what we need to go back to is that question. Why does it feel like we are the economy, but the economy works against us instead of for us? And when that really hits with you, you start looking for a better option, right? But there isn't one. There's no option other than the corporate system. Thank you, Neely. So the problem feels literally impossible. Literally impossible. Because it's like, oh, well, if corporations are the problem, I'll just boycott corporations and go shop or work. Oh, that's almost impossible. Where do I get our food from? Where do I get our healthcare from? Where do we get our housing from? Oh, there's nothing I can do because there's no local options for these things. So the problem feels too big for any one of us. It's overwhelming. It's unfixable. And when something feels that big, two things happen to most people. You either lose freaking hope or you get really angry and try to fight it, right? But most people just go right back to what they were doing before. That's why the system stays this way. Part of the problem is that we want so quickly to get to the solution that we are desperate and we don't take the time to understand that the solution is having everyone walk with you. And having everyone walk together takes some time. Have you ever tried to go anywhere with a big group? You ever try to get 20 people to leave to go somewhere at the same time? It takes a little while. But in the end, it's better because then you got all your friends with you. So what happens to people? They don't see this for a long time. And then finally something happens that changes, right? So what is it? Because if we can identify that, maybe we can make it happen more, right? But it's like, really, the system is like a roadmap. And it's like the road changed on us, or more like they put these dividers in the lane that push us off the road. For a long time, the road worked for people, right? A long time, the road worked for people. Not everybody. People were always screwed by the roadmap. Some people always got left behind or fell off the road. But for the majority of us, if you followed the rules, if you worked your butt off, the road took you somewhere. Where you started, it didn't matter where you finished, right? And so every once you glance off to the side of the road and you see somebody stranded, but you say, oh, they must have done something wrong, right? They must have done something incorrect. And you go, oh, that doesn't seem fair if it wasn't them. But then you just keep on driving because you've got to focus on what's in front of you. Right? So then you just get back on the road and you keep driving. You don't question it because most people make it to their destination. Most people have progress. But when you stop moving forward, think if you're in a traffic jam, you're looking at that map like, what is going on? And that's what changed. It's not just a few people driving off the road anymore, right? It's everywhere, every day, people doing what they are told and somehow still drifting off the road. And it's confusing, right? It's confusing. If you just come on here and rant and rave, everybody feels this way. You got to talk about the feeling before you talk about the solution. Because as you're driving along the road, if you get pushed off, right? You think, did I miss a turn? Did I do something wrong? Did I screw it up? And it's not just you anymore. It's not just a few people, right? It's all of us. Customer support. You've walked into somebody's house. You have been nothing but very much self-centered. I just cannot believe that somebody would even act this way. Somebody else is giving a talk and they're mid-conversation. You act like you're the only person here. This is insane. Allow me. I'm not here to serve you. I'm here to talk about my talking points. And at the end of it, we'll talk about the solution. I don't understand the rush. We've been in this situation for a long time. We're not going to fix it individually. And in order for people to come together, we have to find common ground. And you want us to jump ahead and lose half the people. For what? So you can be satisfied? There are other people in this room. There are other people on this planet. So when you look around and people are driving off the road, it's not just you, right? It's your friends, it's your family, it's people younger than you, it's people older than you. And that's when the system starts to feel off. Because when everyone is drifting off the road, maybe it's not the driver. Maybe it's not you doing something wrong. Maybe the goddamn road or the map is leading you the wrong way. And that's what people don't see. The ones that are going off the road, they aren't dumb. They aren't just not paying attention. They didn't forget how to budget. They're just trying to stay on the road. And when the road takes you off the way, right? You don't think about what happened to the map. You're just like, shoot, I don't have enough. I drove off the road. What do I do next? You just sitting there gripping the wheel. So the road doesn't just occasionally fail people. It fails everyone constantly. The lanes that you can drive in are narrowing. There's no more exit signs anymore. The guardrails aren't there to protect you. They're there to protect 1 out of 100 people, the 1%. And everybody else just falls by the wayside. And then we all think, oh, this is just normal. This is just traffic. They must have made a mistake. But the lanes are getting tighter. The guardrails are getting closer. And at some point, the map never gets you to where you were trying to go. When do we stop blaming the drivers? When do we stop blaming the drivers? Because the fewer people this dang road works for. Yep, Neely, that's exactly what it is. Nobody makes you feel, you decide how to feel. So if you don't have any money, your boss is in control of you. They can literally let you. They can make you work for weeks or months on end. Hey, boss, hey, come in tomorrow. Well, it's my kid's birthday. Come in tomorrow or you're fired. And if you don't have any savings because your boss continually takes advantage of you, there ain't nothing you can do about that. Pretty sure that was somebody else deciding how you feel. Deciding how you feel. Healthcare companies can literally deny you coverage and allow you to no longer live. So what it really comes down to is that people don't have the perspective because we're sitting there treading in water. Oh, well, the job didn't pay me well, probably because the company was struggling, right? The workplace was bad because leadership failed. Oh, the business collapsed because of bad decisions. Or is it really because it's set up so that the rich get richer? Because slowly people start to see that it's not about effort, it's not about morality, it's not about intelligence. It's that some businesses have stuck themselves in between and made them middlemen. So what happens when a company doesn't need to be better? What happens when there is no competition? That's not something that's easiest for us to see because we don't see the absence of alternatives. They make 30 different brands, all owned by the same company. And so there's no actual competition. And once you see that, it makes a lot more sense. Because why would wages rise if you don't need to be competitive? Bad companies, oh my God, bad companies outlast good ones so much longer, right? Innovation doesn't matter anymore. Customer service doesn't matter anymore. The company's effort doesn't matter. If the employee busts your butt at Walmart, you're not going to get a better life. You won't even get enough hours, right? And that's not even because the corporations or the CEOs are evil. They literally incentivize the corporations to screw us over all the time. They make it so that the CEOs earn their bonus over what happens over 3 or 4 months. And who cares what happens in the next 4 years? The 1%, people making over $40 million, corporations and politicians. Tyson Foods just shut down another plant, got rid of, I think it was like 2,000 workers, and it barely affects 1% of their yearly profit. Because what ends up happening is when there's no competition, when when customers or workers can't leave, the boss has all the leverage. Because here's what it is. When you walk into Walmart, have you ever asked, why do Walmart employees treat their customers so bad? Well, because the Walmart bosses know you're not going to walk out and go somewhere else. You are there, you're going to shop there no matter how the employees treat you. So why would they pay their employees enough to smile at you? Hey, if I pay you $5 more an hour, would you smile? Yeah, I would, boss. Well, they're not worth paying that $5 extra an hour, because why would they pay it? The only reason they would pay is if there's competition. If the customer could walk out and say, screw this, I am so sick of Walmart treating me like this, I'm going to go to Charlie's General Store down the street. Well, Walmart ran out of Charlie's General Store down the street, right? There is no general store down the street. So we can't walk out and leave, right? Same with every grocery store. Damn, if we had farmers markets in every single grocery store parking lot, I bet you your oranges would be a little bit fresher and juicier. I bet you the employees would get a higher salary and they'd start giving you some better customer service. Because if we are able to walk out and say, screw this, we're going to go somewhere else unless you do better, they have no incentive to do better, right? Unless you can say, do better, or I'm going to go to the local store, we have no leverage because there is no local store. So if you go to the other corporation, all the corporations own each other. 85% of corporations on the S&P 500 have the same 3 top shareholders, right? So we literally can't leave the system. Because it tells us if you work hard, if you're responsible, if you do the right thing, you'll get ahead. But that isn't happening. Effort no longer leads to outcome. So outcomes and effort aren't the same. There's no competition, so we can't vote with our dollar. So what actually drives this forward? What is actually happening? Right? Well, as most people know, it's just about greed. That's the only issue. Greed is the disease. And the lack of choice that we have in competition, it leads to them controlling us. Companies don't have to try anymore. Corporations don't care about you, and they make that well known. Choices don't matter. The pressure from the company disappears. Company doesn't care. Shit, I know you're coming back next week for toilet paper either way. So why would I pay my employees $5 more to smile at you when I know your ass will be back here? You know how I know your ass will be back here? Because I ran out every other supplier and producer in the last 20 years. So the workers can't leave because there's no other options. The customers can't leave because there's no other options. Corporations don't need to improve or get better because there's no other competition. They're not evil. They've just been incentivized in the wrong direction. So once a small number of companies, yeah, Neely, that got him a timeout. Once a small number of companies realized, oh, we don't need to constantly do better and innovate and pay better salaries. What we need to do is make sure that we control the majority of the food. It seems like 80% is their magic number. When a company takes over 80% of an industry, they no longer have to worry. Airplanes, just 3 companies dominate 80%. Banking, just like 5 companies dominate 80%. General stores, grocery stores. A small number of companies sits between people and the things we need to live. That's it. Corporations are middlemen. Corporations are middlemen. That's it. We're the ones that need food. Well, guess what? It's people in your county, in your zip code, in your neighborhood that are putting the food in the ground, that are growing it. So we need the food. We grow the food. It would make sense if we connected, right? But no, these dang corporations sit in between. They don't add value. They don't help us. They don't make our life easier. They just purposefully control what we need to live so that they own us, so that they can make as much money because they're incentivized for profit. This is when everything has started stacking. That's why every single company feels like they all have the same ethos, because they really do. They're like the same owner. BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street are the top 3 shareholders in over 85% of companies on the S&P 500. So once we get to the corporate states of America, yeah, you're technically free to leave that job, but leave to where? We're in a big company town. Everything is controlled by the same few companies. Because where are you going to go work? A different job owned by the same company? Another service controlled by the same shareholders? A different location where everything is exactly the same? It's where people say, oh, go get a better skill. Oh, go move locations. Oh, go get a better job. They're all owned by the same people. You're allowed to move and try and change, but that doesn't change the outcome. That's why we feel so stuck. And this is where it annoys me. Work harder, do better, right? Because effort only matters if it actually does something. And if the corporation doesn't have to compete, not for their workers, not for their customers, doesn't matter, right? Competition disappears. It affects everything, not just our wages, not just our prices, right? Fritz, and we say the me, because we all feel this way. So the opposite of greed is community. The opposite of corporations are local. So we need to start seeing that Americans aren't just asleep, because the people that are awake, what other option do you have other than the corporate one? So what we really need to see is that our biggest power is being able to say, fix this or we're going somewhere else. Whether it's in our job where we say, do better or we're going somewhere else. Whether it's in the economy where we say, do better Walmart or we're going somewhere else. Do better or you working somewhere or we're going somewhere else. Or for the economy overall, because the economy has been running us over for a long time. It's like the economy is a broken down car that all of us need to push for it to move forward. But then the people that are driving that car, they constantly run us over. And what we want to be able to say is, Stop running us over or we won't push the car anymore. But we don't have any leverage. We have to push the car to continue to live. So they know we're going to be back pushing the car. And then people say, this is just the way it is. We push the car and then we get ran over. I just hope it's not me getting run over, right? But we used to be able to put pressure on the people driving the car. We used to be able to say, screw this. We're not doing this anymore. Now we can't do that. So they just drive over us whenever they want. So instead of companies responding to us, we have to listen to the companies, right? You no longer control your hours. Your freaking boss does. Hey, come in tomorrow or else you're fired. Most of us have to say yes. Your wages stay, hey, can I have a raise? No, bye. Stop asking or you're fired. Oh, no, there's no benefits, right? And everyone's told it's their own fault. You need to do better. You should hustle harder. You should budget smarter. But none of that actually gets down to the root of the problem. It's that we don't have any leverage. We don't have any savings. We can't ever tell them we're going somewhere else because it starts with the customers. It starts with the customers being able to say, screw this, we're going to the local place down the street. So that thing has to be available first. And then the employer will start paying their employees more money so that the customers don't go down the street. Hey, if I give you $3 more an hour, can you be extra nice to Miss Jenkins when she comes in? Last week, she left because you didn't give her enough customer service. So she went down to the local store down the street. But only when that local store is down the street do you have the leverage, right? You have the leverage. It's just that you were bashing on a group of people that didn't need to be bashed on. So now you get a block. I don't care. And most people don't see this, right? This isn't a moral argument. It's not a moral argument. It's not a moral question. It's a question of choices. I know I gave him one chance, fellow, where it just blows my mind how people think they can talk about half of the world's population and think that people would be cool with it. But we only see the symptoms, right? That's what's so hard is we just see the low wages. We don't see the reason why. And we just feel it. We just feel exhausted. We feel anxious. We feel stuck. There's nowhere to go. So if effort doesn't fix it, if working harder doesn't change things, if moving somewhere else just gets you the same conditions in a different zip code, if doing everything right, working hard, going to school, busting your butt, still does not get you ahead, seriously, what kind of system are we in? What do we do when there's nowhere to go? Isn't that the real feeling? That's the real feeling I think we all have. What do we do when there's nowhere to go? If working your ass off doesn't mean that you get ahead, but in the trades, working your ass off still doesn't mean you get ahead. If moving somewhere else doesn't improve your conditions, if you do everything right, you go to trade school, you get a job, but you still aren't making enough for that $40,000 down payment, what kind of system are we in? It just feels like once everything else started behaving differently, that we just pretend that the old rules don't apply, right? Just pretend. Because that's what it is. We are playing a rigged carnival game. 9 out of 10 people fail that carnival game. And they're ashamed of it. Just one or two people go through and they assume there's no problem, right? We just saw it in the chat. Good, we're not talking about you. We're sure that you had some kind of advantage. Absolutely, Neely. Because if it was just the economy, if it was just the fact that we had no opportunity, we'd be able to see it, right? But why do they have to have a side business? Have you ever asked that question? Why do all these people that are working 40 hours a week need a side business? This is the question that we're asking. If you are not able to think that much deeper, this probably isn't the right room for you. Thoughts and isms? That is a great question. But it's the fact that that's the culture that we're in, right? That's the culture that we're in. Is that the guys knowing the trades, doing the work, the guy, leveling the site, putting in the foundation, laying the concrete, doing the drywall, doing the plumbing, doing the electricity, they're the ones that do the actual work. The greedy assholes sitting in the truck, they make twice as much money, 10 times as much money as all the workers. But what do? Right? If people build a house for $200,000 and it's all the workers that take a month building that house while the guy in his truck, while the manager sat their ass in the truck the whole time, guess how much each group would get? Well, the manager would get $100,000. And each of those 10 workers, they would get $10,000. The dude sitting in the truck, not lifting a finger, not doing a single thing, gets $100,000. The electrician gets $10,000. The plumber gets $10,000. The concrete guy gets $10,000. They're the ones doing the work to build the damn house. It's the guy whose ass is sitting in the truck that's taking all the money. Yet we act like it's normal. Because, Neely said it, because the people sitting in that truck, the people up top, they've spent a lot of money to convince us that, man, without that guy in the truck, this house wouldn't get built, would it? Because humans don't like to complete things and be productive and serve their community while also making some money. Oh, we need a dictator that we call a boss to tell us what to do. But he took on the risk. You almost can feel it bubbling up, Wes, right? Good to see you again, my friend. Because this is where it starts coming in. We hear from all the people. They paid the money. They took the risk. But what they don't ask, right? Because what really comes down to is that we're already wired to point fingers at somebody, right? So when we're busting our ass, we know the house, was $200,000. We get $10,000 for 6 months worth of work. And we don't look around and expand our view, right? When we have less, we start asking one thing: who did this? Who did this? Right? Who's the threat to my family? We don't ask what changed over time. We don't ask who's benefiting from this arrangement. All we ask is who's taking what I need. But you are so right, Jody, because the people that took everything, you just went too far. It's not any family. It's not any group. It is the 1% of people. It is structural. Until we understand it is not any individual. Pointing fingers is what got us in this mess. It is structural. So we have to understand that they put us in a position to ask, who's taking my crap? Who's taking what I need? Then they tell us, hey, it's immigrants. It's people that think differently than you. And especially when it came from people who we used to trust. Fritz, I got 5 more minutes and I'll get there. So if you want to check back in, you can. But I'm getting close to it. If you can see where we're going with it. because we've gotten to the point where people are starting to see it is not personal decisions. This is a structural situation that has us like this. We really need to talk about the disease to make sure we can all get to the same cure, right? Because here's what happens. We all start looking for a reason, right? And most of us are receptive to whatever explanation is the closest, the loudest, the most satisfying. And especially if it comes from one of the political parties, if it comes from our media or a politician, from a place that we used to trust. So we all feel like something is off in our lives. And we don't need somebody to convince us that something's wrong. We already feel it. We just want to point the finger at somebody. So when they come along and say it was that group, it was that ideology, oh, it's that culture, it's that foreign nation, it's another set of people doing something wrong, it feels true. It feels true. It really does. So we are so stuck with the system. We are so dependent on the system that what do? We've tried protesting harder. We've tried voting. And that sounds like power, right? Titus, you're getting close to it. But what if the politicians aren't actually the ones in charge? What if writing new laws doesn't actually do much? If the same people will continue controlling our food and our housing and our transportation and our childcare and our banking and things that we have to be a part of in this society. I think people are standing up, Titus, but I think they're standing up for a couple days and then they have to go back to buy food. And the only place we can buy food from is corporations. Not everybody, but like the easiest majority, all of that. So, but Wes, that's right. But they will all go pay their rent to a corporation. Everyone's mortgage is financed by one of the big banks. Most people don't go searching for farmers markets and only buy food at farmers markets and local butchers. I would argue that almost every American goes to a grocery store every week. We all pay our health insurance to big companies. So we have to get people to understand the only way a strike will matter is if we have leverage. We've already talked about this. The customers can't leave corporations' stores. We can't shop somewhere else because we don't have leverage. So we definitely don't have leverage striking until we build local alternatives. So I think it's not that people aren't choosing to resist. We're seeing it. It's that resistance doesn't come with any alternatives. That's the part that gets missed. Not everyone's asleep, but we can't just not participate when that's how we all eat, when that's how we all get our medicine, when that's how we put a roof over our head, right? Well, and that's what, Wes, we are really hoping to do, is start a small business revolution where that small businesses are the North Star and they understand, oh, the community needs, the community health is what supports my business. So the healthier the community is, the better it is for me and my business. Because it starts to feel like no matter what you do, you still are in the system. All those people protesting during the day, how many went out and got lunch, dinner from somewhere at night? Or went to work the next morning for one of those companies in San Francisco that is literally funding politicians that are voting against their interests. And they don't have an option to not work for that company. And that's where I think the first step is building this layer, Wes, of these small businesses to give people alternatives. That's the first step. Because without alternatives, we have no leverage. So when we threaten, hey, we're leaving this system unless you fix it, there's no leverage to make it mean anything. It doesn't feel like, to me, the problem is motivation. I think most people would not shop at Walmart if they could go to Wes's General Store, where you knew, where everybody knows your name. And that's why right now walking away doesn't change anything. It feels fake, right? It feels impossible. Wes, you just said it, 1,000 years. Mass political power only worked when politicians worked for us. We don't fund the politicians' campaign anymore, so politicians don't give a shit about us. Imagine if you're going to college, but your parents aren't paying for your college. Somebody else is paying for your college. Well, you're not going to listen to your parents, right? You're going to listen to that person that's paying for your college. That's what this is. The politicians should be looking to us, but they're not. They're looking to the people that paid their campaign. And in every single situation, that is the corporation. It's the truth. So that's where, when people are competing, we don't cooperate, right? Well, Jody, we're building a place where we're coming together. Just drop the Discord. We just naturally believe that there's winners and losers, right? So in these conversations, we always blame people. We always fight over who deserves what. Because we can't say no to the corporations. We can't say no to the corporate system. We are stuck. Which brings us to the next question. Like, what would it have to look like to not feel stuck? Everything didn't used to be centralized, right? I keep thinking about that. We all heard the stories. How many of us grew up hearing about local general stores? Shit, we had a local newspaper here until a billionaire bought it a couple years ago. Local events. Not like things were this back way, da-da-da-da-da, but just like, no, if we actually wanted to vote with our wallet, we could. And we didn't think much of it. I literally heard these laments all the time growing up. Oh, we used to go here. They used to care. People don't care anymore. Well, it's like, well, Mom and Dad, you voted for that. I know that they wrapped it in the American flag and told you it was the best for everybody, but you're the one that chose convenience over community. And those things all sounded old-fashioned, right? Like something our society had outgrown. Or maybe that's part of what the corporations wanted us to think. Because when you start thinking about what corporations do, they don't do much. We're the ones that grow the food. Corporations pay us to grow food. We're the ones that are the doctors and the healthcare workers and the nurses. We're the ones that build the houses and are the essential workers. It's not the corporations. What the corporations do on this side, this is the people that need things. This is the people that do things. Corporations sit in between as a wall and grant access depending on how much we pay them. What's up, scumbag? And that's the problem, is that the corporations that are literally just middlemen act like they're the shit. They act like without them, we are nothing. No, dude, you're just calling the farmer that lives a couple streets over. Maybe back in 1940, that would be hard for me to do. But now I can just hit him up on WhatsApp or whatever, right? So they made us feel like something that was super easy was super hard. Because if they acted like us calling up the damn farmer was super hard, was super easy, we would just cut out the middlemen. So that's what this is. We're cutting out the middlemen. It's so frustrating. That's all they are. And when the middlemen don't care about our community, when they literally live 8 states over, when the only reason we allowed the original corporation to come in was because the owner was a part of our community, and then another person buys it and they don't give a crap about our community, they start screwing us over. But we're told the system is there for us, right? And we all barely remember what it felt like before things were not there to screw us over. And most of us have never experienced the system. That's the thing. We don't all love this. We don't all like this. We just don't know any better. Right? We're all so used to being exploited. That's like a little kid that gets yelled at all the time that doesn't realize that that's not normal. Most of us have never experienced a system that works for us instead of against us, because it's really not that hard. All people need the same things to live: food, housing, and healthcare. You either make those things really expensive, so everybody all the time is working for food, housing, and healthcare. Everybody's scared that they're not going to have enough money for food, housing, and healthcare, so you can control them. And because they're all scared, they're easy to divide. That's where we are now. Or a society could make food, housing, and healthcare like 10% of your salary. Imagine if the rule was food, housing, and healthcare can't be more than $1,000 combined. All of us would be so much happier, because we'd have 6 months worth of savings in our bank account. Because if we can have 6 months worth of savings, we can do that one word that we can't do now. We can say no. Because how free are you really if you can't even say no to your boss? If your boss calls you up and says, hey, I need you to work this weekend or you're fired, most people couldn't say no. Because if they're fired, they don't know what else is out there. They don't know if they're actually going to get it. So, all right, we're getting to it. I apologize, everybody. This feels hard. But we're really just trying to figure out, why doesn't it add up? Because here's what I keep asking. If you were running a business, you'd probably want the most out of your employees, right? Shit, if you are the head of a country, you want your citizens to be able to provide the most amount of output possible. So this is like an efficiency question. This is a practical question. How do you get the most out of people? How do you get the most out of your employees? How do you get the most out of your citizens? Do you get it by keeping them constantly worried about food and housing and healthcare? Or do you get the most out of people by making those things easily and available so people can think normally without being stressed, so they can take risks without fearing not having homeless or not having food, so that people can contribute more than just survival labor? Thoughts, isms, if you could join the Discord, that would be awesome. Really enjoyed your contributions today. So that's what it is. How do you get the most out of people? Because all humans need those same things, right? Food, housing, healthcare. That's what sustains us. And it's part of what connects us. People have always needed to coordinate those things. We didn't always just go to the farmers. We didn't always just go to the doctors. There's always been somebody in between that helps us connect with them. And that's what's so crazy. It's just that they're supposed to help us and connect with us, not exploit us. Well, Jody, it was a long time coming, but losing all the competition was a big one. So that's where we are, because having competition, being able to say, screw this, or we're walking out of here, is one of the most important things we can do. Well, especially, Wes, when the whole thing is all we need to do is negotiate as a team. That's all that a union is, a bunch of people negotiating as a team. That's all Medicare for All is. Either 300 million of us can go up each individual against the health insurance companies, or instead of one of us versus this huge health insurance company, we can do it as a team. So wouldn't it make more sense if we're negotiating to negotiate as a team? Right? And yet we act like it's the competition, that it's never cooperation, right? Well, C823, we know why, right? The media lied to them. All the things that used to be for the people in society, they have turned against us. Politicians used to be for the people, now it's for profit. The media used to be for the people, now it's for profit. And number one, unions used to be for people, and now they've turned them into this red taped, in some cases, profit machine. Because if you can kneecap the very thing that helped the American worker make more progress than anything else, well, then what is the American worker going to do, right? And Jody, back to what you were saying, along the way, everybody forgot. We talk so much about us versus them, right? The little guy versus the big guy. And Jody, somewhere along the way, everybody started fighting about what the problem is, right? Different priorities. There was a different villain, different fixes. That's where even so many of us that think the same way, different fixes, different priorities, and the arguing never seems to go anywhere, right? That's where we are just going to build something that makes people excited. Because they don't know that they can destroy their livelihood, been propagandized. So many of us, what I think all the time too is I live in Baltimore, right? I can't be like, how could somebody love the Pittsburgh Steelers? I just have to go, that's what they were born into, right? That's literally how we have to think about it. Or even more like a religion. If somebody is born into, India, you're more than likely to be Hindu, but, people aren't like, man, I can't imagine why they would believe in all these gods. It's like, well, that's all they've ever known, right? That's where I was thinking about that today too. I was like, we don't act confused why somebody loves a sports. I was thinking about the New York Jets. Why do people become New York Jets fans? It seems miserable. It seems painful. They literally talk about how horrible it is. But it's their culture. It's what they were born into. Us humans, we really stay in the lane that we were born in a lot of times. And we need to remember that. That, yeah, the people whose head are in the sand, we don't need to sit there and argue with, but they're not stupid, or they were just at a different starting point, right? I know, it's very true, Jody. So what's crazy to me is that cooperation always seems to work better. And that's not just me like making shit up. Competition gets framed as the law of the jungle. But that's not how society's formed, right? That's not how society's forms. We didn't leave the jungle because we were all competing and that made us progress out of the jungle. We left the jungle because we were sick of fighting over scraps against each other and like going to sleep with a bunch of bananas and having Nova come and take it. Sorry, Nova. Having Nova come and take your bananas the next morning. You're like, damn it, I just want to go to sleep and have this person not take my bananas. So we became friends instead. We teamed up. We said, all right, let's not steal each other's bananas. And let's work as a team to all collect bananas. So there's enough bananas for all of us. That's how we left. That's how we made civilization. Instead of doing something small, we could coordinate. We could take on bigger challenges. Things that we could all build together are always bigger than things you can do yourself, right? Cooperation is always better than competition, right? Cooperation is always better than competition, but this is what they do. This is what they do. From a very young age, we don't see cooperation as strength, right? They teach us that life is zero sum, that we're all fighting over a limited amount. And you better get yours. You better get yours. Right? And when everyone believes that cooperation is weak, that competition is the way of the world, goodbye, community, right? So life starts feeling risky. Everybody feels like you're in competition. And part of that is, if you picture America as 10 people that made 10 slices of bread. What's up, Urban? 10 people that made 10 slices of bread. Well, in America today, one person takes 5 slices. And it's not, there you go, Louis. And it's 9 people fighting over 5 slices of bread. Brian, we're pretty deep in the conversation here. We're 80 minutes in, but give me like 2 or 3 minutes and I'll circle back through and I'll do a quick run through. But no, that is not the case at all. So, because if everybody competes, then it feels like we're always losing and we never even question it, right? Because we don't have enough money, we don't have enough time, we don't have enough energy to ask why. We're always just treading water and never stable enough to ask, why are things this way? Why are things this way? If education is one of the biggest determinants of your success in life, why is educational opportunity so unfair, right? Is this actually the best way to organize society? How many of us get time to sit and ask that? One ghost, that was beautiful writing. And that's what we need to figure out. The opposite of greed isn't charity, it's community. It's us coming together. And guess what? Us coming together and just building what works for us is so much easier. It's so much easier. Because we've already talked about it. People want to protest, but you can't protest because the politicians aren't against us. People want to vote with your wallet, but you can't vote with your wallet because you ain't got nowhere else to go. So what do we actually do? Well, we need to be able to tell them, fix this or we're not participating. Fix this or we're not going to be a part of it. Whether it is a relationship where you tell your partner, fix your behavior or I'm leaving this relationship. Whether it's a roommate, you tell, fix your habits or I'm leaving. Or whether it's a job, stop treating me this way or I'm leaving. If you don't have the ability to leave, your threat means nothing. Right now, it's like we are a 14-year-old going to our parents and saying, you better make some changes or we are leaving. Your parents go, all right, see you in 2 days when you're cold. See you in a couple hours when you need food. You depend on us for everything you need. Where do you think you're going? That's the situation we're in right now. We depend on the very system we're trying to push back against. If you were the one that was feeding somebody food and the person feeding you food kept punching, or the person you were feeding food kept punching you in the face, you would just stop feeding them food. That's the situation we're in now. We have no leverage. A lot of us think the leverage is getting enough people organized. Nope. Getting enough people to protest and be loud. Nope. Or voting better, finding better leaders. Not really. Maybe it's the laws. None of that really changes when the same corporations control everything. And the corporations control our politicians. And so it feels so stuck. Shannon, perfect timing. We're about to introduce the competition that we're building. Because part of why it feels so hopeless is because how can we ever take on a corporation? How can we ever take on a corporation? They're so much bigger than us. Well, the fact that they're bigger than us is the reason we will beat them. The fact they are bigger than us means that we can care more. We will defeat the corporations through a small business revolution, not by offering more products, not by offering an array of services, by doing one thing and caring about it. We will have 1 million small businesses, each serving 50 customers, and those 50 million people will each have options that are not the system. They will have options that are local. They have options that are based in the community. So what we need is somebody who is playing the role of connector, connecting the people who need the food with the people that grow the food, connecting the people that need healthcare with the people that provide the healthcare. But what if the person doing that was beholden to the community? Why? Because they're a part of the community, because they are held accountable by the people in the community. Corporations started getting so bad when they left our community, when they didn't have to care about a single community, when they had 1,000 communities supporting them. Corporations get too big for their britches. We need to show them that, no, you're never going to offer as much as the grocery store, but you don't have to. You just need to care more. And you don't start off trying to do everything. We do one thing. So we are going to make an impact, not by protesting, not by voting, but by showing people that there's a better option. And yeah, we got to build the better option. But it takes no money. You are only literally just connecting people, because that's all corporations do anyway. They don't build anything. They don't grow anything. They don't do anything. A corporation doesn't have skills. Corporations are made up of humans. We are the humans. We need the food. We grow the food. The corporations make all the money. We can change it. So, local food distribution is where we are starting. No, Bob. Humans put the cars together. Humans build the rockets. The small businesses will be better, Deborah, because it's the people that don't want to be a part of this corporate system that are starting the small businesses. And the main reason we're starting the small businesses is because we're sick of buying things from people that don't care about us. That's really what it comes down to. We're sick of buying things from people that don't care about us. So those small business owners, they better show us that they care about us. And that's why we will start shopping there. Not just because they're local, but because when we text them, they give it to us, right? And trust, I know, Shannon, so true. So this is what we're doing to start it. If you can find 15 people, friends, coworkers, acquaintances, family members, cousins, get 15 people together And you don't say, hey, we're leaving the system. Do you want to leave the system too? No, it's just corporations really don't care about us. Corporations screw us over all the time. A bunch of us are getting together because we're done buying our food from corporations. We're going to get our food from the local farmer. Would you be down to join that group? You can order Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Ordering closes on Wednesday. And then you pick it up on Friday or Saturday morning. We've got a centralized meeting location. You're connecting people to food that is being grown in their area. People go to the grocery store. You don't need to deliver it. People go to the grocery store all the time. Absolutely, Jody. They don't care about what's in our food. You, as the local food distributor, would care that people were getting whole and healthy food. And you know it's whole and healthy because you're getting it from a farmer who also lives in your community, who also wants nothing more than for your community members to have whole and healthy food. See how when it's two community members, one that's the food distributor that's helping the farm, and one that is the farmer, you don't have anybody that doesn't live in the community. Therefore, people care about the others around them. They care about the quality. They care about the services and the goods they are providing. The only reason you wouldn't care is if you weren't a part of that community, is if you knew that you were making your money either way. So why would I give a shit? And that's what grocery stores do. Y'all, we can do this. We can build this. So here's all that you got to do. You are simply the point of contact for a bulk ordering group. That's pretty much it. You're the point of contact for a bulk ordering group. So you have 15 people, not many, 10, 15 people. Start with everybody you interact with, coworkers, neighbors, friends. I got 4 people. I'm doing this in Maryland. So if you're in Maryland, let's connect. Once you get about 10 people, you just call a local producer. Hey, do you sell eggs? If we were buying 20 dozen eggs a week, what would you sell it to us for? There you go. You are getting 20 people to buy their eggs from a local source, and you're going around the grocery store. You're going around the corporations that poison our food. This is the answer, y'all. Because this is how people get their food already. This just makes it so that the people that are in the community are actually in charge of it. The grocery stores already do this. The grocery stores just don't care about you because they know that they've put themselves in a place where they are so ubiquitous that they don't need to try harder. Because what are you going to do? Go somewhere else? You can't. They ran out the local grocery store. And what this really does is, everybody, this takes politics out of the equation, right? That's our biggest problem. We don't need to convince anybody. You just offer a better option. But Jody, that's what we have to remember. Just because there's more of us doesn't mean just shouting loudly wins. It has to be more of us that understand we have to provide better options for the rest of us. Because it's only, we are not in this position just because we are asleep. We are in this position because we don't have an option. I know that I would have cut out everything in my life that is corporate. But my health insurance is corporate. We are in a place where it's really difficult to go to all farmers markets. We got to get some of our food from grocery stores. It's really difficult with 2 young kids to never go to a general store. There are so many things that we have tried as a family to buy from a non-corporate source, whether it's paying extra to find a local company to ship it to us. And it's some things it's just impossible. So the big issue with there being more of us than there are them, it's the fact that we need to start offering alternatives. We need to start offering alternatives to corporate options. That's why we have the egg buying group, the food buying group. This is a business that you can start. Everybody needs a side hustle anyway. Might as well make some money while you screw over the corporations. And if you want to do it for free, even better, serve your community. But what this can be is a small business revolution where there's 1 million new small businesses, each serving 50 people. And those are the 50 million people that we get. You don't have to convince them. When all we need to say is, screw this system, fix it, or we're not coming back. We need it so that millions of people have a way to not come back. Because here's what it is. Think if right now we said, all right, everybody, tomorrow, for the next week, nobody buy food from a corporate grocery store. How many people could get through and do that? Now, what if over the next year, 1 million people started the local food distributor small business? And 1 million people said, all right, I don't want to serve everybody. I want to serve 50 people, make $50 a week, offer a service to my community while screwing over corporations. What if in 1 year we did the same thing and we had 1 million local food distributors? And we told people, all right, spend 1 week not shopping at corporate grocery stores. Well, if we had 1 million alternatives where people could become part of a buying group that they called up a local farmer and got their eggs from, well, then it would make our demand of saying, all right, fix this system or we're going to leave. It would make it actually mean something. So if you haven't yet, join the Discord, hop into there, because that's where we actually start building these solutions. We break out by state. That's the most important aspect. We can't do anything on a national level. It has to be local network or local action networks. Each county or each state starts breaking out, figuring out what they need, what they can do to push back, what you can do to build more. And what it should be is we should have 1 million people starting small businesses that serve their community rather than take from it. We've got people in Colorado. Just go ahead, join the Discord. First step is to break out by state. And this is how many people are feeling this or are part of this. All right, everybody, I'm going to get rolling. We'll be back on later. Appreciate everybody. Have a good day.